Hello and welcome to the Animation Communication Podcast, your source for discussion about animation, film, fandom, and more. So please join your host, I Love Kim Possible a Lot, or KP, and Lauren Kizich, the Abbey Roadie, for today's discussion. If you like what you hear, please remember to support by giving a like, a follow, as well as subscribing to the main I Love Kim Possible a Lot channel on YouTube. Spread the word and keep being a part of a great community. This episode contains some mild adult language.
Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Animation Communication with me, KP. Lauren's not here right now. She had to deal with some personal fun BS stuff that she had to deal with this weekend. So I'm just doing it by myself because I couldn't find a co-host last minute. So it's fine, whatever. So joining me, I have convention heads from all different points of convention-ness. Mostly some pony convention people, some non-pony convention people. So if you've never heard about a convention, you don't know what they are, to all the way to I want to run a convention, I don't know how, to basically providing a good experience to people that maybe want to go to them, or making sure that you have if you have a good time, like if you want to go, making sure you're having a good time and all that fun mumbo jumbo. So, words are hard. So anyway, I'm just going to let everyone introduce themselves, and then we'll kind of jump into some questions and discussion. Fun. So I guess, Scott, why don't we start with you? Scott, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I am Scott Kinnersley. I go by Thornwing Online, and I help run Everfree Northwest and volunteer at a whole bunch of other conventions.
Okay, that's a good start. Go ahead, Casey.
I am Casey Yunt, and I used to run Equestria LA, which was a My Little Pony convention in Anaheim, even though it said LA, whatever. And it is now,
it's close enough.
It's defunct. We shut it down, but I also used to volunteer for a lot of other My Little Pony conventions, and I used to do the San Diego Comic-Con thing. So yeah, I've been around the scene for a while.
Okay, what about you, Lauren? What's your deal?
Well, my name is Lauren Stone. I am the owner and promoter of a few shows in the LA area: ToonCon, Simi Valley Toy and Comic Fest, Ventura Toy and Comic Expo, Megabit Game Expo, and I work on some other shows freelance, a few Long Beach shows, and I am the media director of Power Morphicon.
Okay, thanks everyone for being here and volunteering your time to help educate the youth, essentially. And this is a curse episode, so if you want to curse, you're welcome to curse.
Oh, hooray.
Just yay. So you have some flexibility with that. I don't think little kids are going to be like, I want to learn how to run a convention. So I was like, whatever. I guess we'll go from Scott and we'll go down the line for each question, and I guess that's fine. So in your own this is the stupid bullshit like starter question. So in your own basic words, what is a convention for someone who has not ever heard of one, and what is like a fan convention in general?
Oh, okay. Fan convention. So first of all, the big distinction here is conventions are run by different kinds of people or organizations. Fan conventions are usually put on by fans of a certain property or a certain idea, not to be confused with conventions that are run by the actual people that own that brand or that idea. It's also could be a for-profit event, it could be a non-profit event, it could be something that just people get together and hold a big festival. So all different kinds of conventions, and we just represent a small part of that in the pony fandom for myself. So fans of My Little Pony would come together at Everfree Northwest, and we take in all aspects of that genre, and also spread it out a little bit into other related interest groups, such as animation in general, or art, music, other things that aren't necessarily part of the show itself, but have something to do with people that enjoy the same kind of things.
Okay, and then I know the pony questions will repeat to Casey. So Casey, if you have anything to add when we have those kind of things, if not, we'll just go straight to Lauren.
Okay. Well,
So
yeah, I just want to.
you have anything to
I
add?
can point out that a fan convention is different than, say, a trade show type convention where, like, working professionals are getting together because they're all eye doctors or they're into tech. So, like, there's tech conventions like E3 and things like that. So it's similar, but at some fan conventions, it may be less about what's like on the exhibit floor, seeing new things that are out, and more about going to panels and getting autographs with, famous people. So that'll happen more at a fan convention that at more of a professional type convention, and it does make a difference.
That's a good distinction too, because I think like when I'm going to a fan convention, or I'm used to that market, and then I go to like a more professional trade show kind of thing, I'm just like, this is different, so I think expectations are definitely important, and distinction is important and all that stuff.
But they all
Lawrence,
it's all similar in that it's people who care about a given thing, want to come together in person and hang out and learn about and fellowship about that thing they all like.
That's a good way to put it. Lauren, anything to add, especially from your non-pony background?
Well, I mean, just adding to that in general, kind of piggybacking off what we're talking about right now. If in any strong fan event, you're hopeful that anybody involved in the creation of the franchise, pony, cartoons in general, or whatever your niche convention or expo is targeting, or the fans is targeting, you're hoping that people who work on that property will embrace the idea of being there. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like the voice talent if it's a show or cartoon, or the screen actors if it's some of the writers, if it's some of the art talent, if it's if you're lucky, if it's an executive, just somebody who wants to come and represent and teach some fans something that they may not have known. That's for me a really strong angle of a fan expo as well. Because I'm also a toy collector, for me, some of the events that I throw are aimed toward toy properties, so people bring me things for my money to disappear into.
Casey's she's a huge pony collector. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I know. I know now.
And then Lauren specifically, so is there a general distinction, because a lot of fan conventions go under the title of comic conventions? I feel like that might be an architect. That's not the right word, but that might be an old way of describing things. Do you feel like a comic convention would describe just general conventions nowadays? Do you feel like it just expanded and people are just waiting to update the brand of their show? Like any feedback / insight on that?
I do have some thoughts on that. I feel like calling something, especially when it's a brand new show, going in the direction of toys and comics is safe. So if you are throwing a new pop culture event, I feel like just by calling it a Comic-Con or a comic expo or a comic fest, some of them literally are comic book shows and they are aimed for comic book fans, and that is completely what they are. But I feel it's become also a buzzword just to mean pop culture event. And again, it's safe branding so that nobody is confused about what you're trying to accomplish. So there is a business sense to it. It's like saying Kleenex or Band-Aid. Everybody kind of knows what it is, and it makes the branding safe.
Right. So for those who've never heard of any of this before, just because something is labeled a Comic-Con doesn't necessarily mean it's only for comics. So I'm hoping in the next maybe 5 to 10 years we kind of start the industry in general starts expanding to just fan stuff, just to make it more because I feel like that term is still dated, but as is, you're right, it is kind of something people recognize and people just know immediately what that means. So I guess the future will see.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the term Comic-Con got trademarked by the San Diego folks. So
It
Okay.
is. It is, and it has been. There are a few shows that are legally allowed to use it, such as one of the shows that I freelance for, which is the Long Beach
Mm-hmm.
Comic Con. It's sort of been grandfathered in under that. And then there's other shows that just use it as an umbrella term, and they are subjecting themselves to being sued by San Diego should that group so choose. But that's a whole messy situation. But yes, you are
The
right.
Salt Lake event
So
actually
yeah, it would be
was
a
one of
good
those
idea to move
sued
away
by
from
them.
the term for a lot of reasons.
Expo is becoming more popular. Festival Fest is becoming more popular. I got some negative feedback. One of the shows that I have is Simi Valley Toy and Comic Fest, a single day celebration of pop culture in the small town of Simi Valley, California. It was really well embraced. We did our show on February 9th, 2020. Great turnout. Everybody had a lot of fun. They were grateful that the show was there. But one piece of feedback I got was that you should not have called it Fest because Fest indicates a large sprawling festival, and this was a hotel show. We had several rooms, gaming room, panel room, artist alley room, and vendor hall. So there was different areas to go into, but they were upset that in their mind festival was one thing, and then what they saw didn't match what was in their head. So you can't please everybody.
Like they thought it would be like an EDM or a music festival as opposed to a convention.
Like a Renaissance fair.
That may like a Renaissance fair, something sprawling and outside. And then that actually, if we want to talk about venues and stuff like that, some people get really unhappy about shows at the fairgrounds. There was a show in Ventura at the fairgrounds that tanked it. They're gone. And my group and I are putting a show in Ventura in a hotel at the Crown Plaza Hotel, May 3rd, 2020. And I know, shameless plug. But that was, again, a piece of feedback that a convention, an expo, a fan event has no business at fairgrounds, whereas something like a Renaissance fair, again, is a large, sprawling outdoor event, but conducive to what the show is trying to achieve. It's a fair, it's a festival. Again, we're getting into these words, but they all kind of qualify and categorize into the same thing.
Now, being outside brings different challenges. Really, I kind of get it.
I don't want to be outside. I mean, again, Ren Fair, I don't personally go to county fairs. There's no pleasure in them for me and what I like to do. But the Ren Fair is fun. I like that one very much. But otherwise, I don't. If I'm going to a pop culture event, I want to be either in a convention center or I want to be in a hotel. That's just where, I like to collect toys. I don't need to collect toys in the sun.
Same.
I like air condition.
I like air conditioning too. Exactly. Well said.
Amen.
Okay. Okay, moving on. This is a more personal question. Well, not really, but how did you all get started in being involved in these fan conventions in general? And I guess again, we'll go in the order of Scott and down. So, Scott, how did you get started?
Oh boy, I got roped in by my own stupidity, I guess. I basically really latched onto the show itself. I really enjoyed it. Was seeking out more content for what was out there and what people were talking about, what people were adding to it as far as fan fiction writing or artistry or music that went along with what the show was portraying. And that kind of led me on to YouTube and a lot of creator content that was there. That led to me watching a lot of convention videos that had been posted on YouTube, panels and interviews with the VIP guests that would voice the characters on the show, and just as a way to kind of give back to that community for the product and the entertainment value that I found in watching and enjoying the show itself and all the related media. I decided to volunteer at a convention to help out running one of these actual fan shows, and then the rest is history. 40 cons later, I'm running the show. Yeah.
You slowly moved up of, did more
I
and more
wouldn't
and
call
more,
it slowly. I think I launched myself into it with both feet off the deep end and into the fray. 3 shows in, I was basically tapped to be a con chair.
I guess you were tempted, right?
Yeah, it's slippery slope, I guess.
Okay, Casey, how did you get started running cons in general?
Well, I'm a software engineer by trade, and for the 2012 Equestria LA, I thought that their registration and their website it sucked. Like these people need help. So well, I met some folks at the con and I reached out after the 2012 event and I said, hey, I'd like to, help you guys out. And I'm looking for, a volunteer thing in my free time. And so I joined the staff for then the 2013 event. And then the con chair at the time, her name was Karen, she figured out that I was a responsible adult and I kind of became the interchangeable part. I did Reg, I did Viper, I was on like the web team, I did all kinds of stuff. And then other people then saw that and they're like, hey, you can come help at my event. So I volunteered at a whole bunch of other My Little Pony conventions. And then when Karen brought the event back for 2015, she had to step down for some personal reasons, and a convention fell in my lap. I was vice chair at the time and doing just business paperwork on the side, so I guess it all worked out in the end. I actually knew the innards of the thing. And then I chose to bring it back for 2017 because I wanted to see what happened if I actually did it all myself from the beginning the way I wanted to do it. Yeah, well, I did it once. From start to finish, it was my baby, and now I'm good.
I think, Casey, you hit there on a very important note of responsible adults. That is
Amen.
something that conventions all over the place are in grave need of. And when you find someone that can act responsibly and act like an adult, it's just an instant pass to how much work can you accomplish.
That is true. That is very true. I'd say that for like a small con, like a pony convention, it's one property, one IP, one fandom. You need at least 10 responsible adults willing to put in free labor to get the thing done.
10? Let me tell you how few people work on my shows. Are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
No, like really, the shows I work on are done by me and my business partner.
Wow.
Power Morphicon, I don't even know if it's all smoke and mirrors. Like I don't want to reveal anything like how, but honestly, like oh my god, if we had 10 people on staff, you've no idea.
Like even on site?
No, on site. Well, on site we have volunteers and we have a small crew of people that we delegate to tasks, but the planning staff very small.
Yeah, from our background, I guess, speaking for me and maybe Casey as well, the pony conventions that I've been a part of are all volunteers. It's 100% volunteer. There is no actual staffing. There's no paid person on staff. There's no one running the convention itself that's a paid owner of it. They're all, at least the ones that I'm running, are nonprofits. So it's hard to find people that are willing to work that many hours and put in that much effort for zero pay.
For free, for the love of it.
Well, that's why, that's why I'm with my shows. It's the small core. It's the owners. It's just me and my business partner because we're accountable for our own time. Every layout's different. There's no right or wrong. If people are happy to volunteer to build the thing, all good. But that's why my partner and I just leave it in our own laps and we make sure that nothing gets lost or there's no problems.
Do you do that full time?
My secondary gig, basically between the convention management and show planning, and we put on about a dozen shows a year, and then I'm also a toy journalist.
The more you do it, and the more common it is and constant it is to be working on shows like that. My shows once a year.
It's all moving parts. It's moving parts. I could list all the shows that my group and I do, but. Yeah, it's just we just hit it every time. But I'm a toy journalist. I'm also a toy journalist. My business partner, Scott Zillner, and I have a website called Toy Wizards, and I'm also Sci-Fi Wire's current toy journalist. So, my background, I don't think we even got to me with the convention thing yet.
Yeah, I was about to
but,
get to that once the conversation kind of.
Sorry, we divulged.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, no, it's all good. It's all good. It's organic. But yeah, with that, I have my background is also in pop culture writing and party planning, which actually ties into getting me kind of my personal rocket in the convention industry. So whenever we get segue to me, it's fine. But I'm just saying, like,
How did you
where my
get started
story
in that
goes.
then? How did you get started doing the conventions, starting from the writer background?
Well, let's see. Yeah, I'll just briefly touch. My very first convention as a fan was Anime Expo 1999. I was 14 years old, huge into anime, and I just loved it. It was just so much fun. I went to a few more conventions between 99 and like 2006, and then I sort of just kind of put it on pause. Other things in life were happening, college, etc. So I started my journey as a pop culture writer in like 2016. I had been published on like crack.com and a few other sites and done some volunteer blog posts and website stuff. And then I finally launched my own brand. It was a blog. I turned it into a website. It was hitting really, really well. Because of the platform that I was building as a pop culture writer, which I'm very lucky for. And then finally I was like, I'm going to start doing convention reviews because I'm going to get into conventions for free, right? So you get press passes, you take some pictures, do a write-up, and you get into conventions for free. So my intentions were like a little bit like just being cheap, but I produced actual nice convention reviews. Like I really did the thing I was there to do. So I didn't trick anyone. And so then I'm walking around, I'm doing my convention thing, I'm collecting business cards, and then I met my business partner, like just crashed right into him, and he's the owner of Power Morphicon, and we started talking, and he hired me to do a little bit of writing for the event, and then he and I built a friendship, and then just eventually built a partnership. And then meanwhile, I was asked to do press processing for a different group, the Nerdbot group. They have their shows, and I did some press processing for them for like one of their events. And then it just that experience just came so quickly. And for me, I've always been really into doing, like, I always tell people, it sounds like a joke, but dinner parties were actually like my background. Like I love throwing dinner parties since I was 17 years old. And I did some like Sailor Moon meetups in the park, and just having that, like, all those, like, we have to do all these activities to keep people busy, or I need to have all these different courses of a meal to keep people occupied, and then this comes out and then that comes out. Like, I had no idea that this was all the building blocks of a pop culture event. So when I did eventually get kind of pushed into that role very quickly, and I got hired by the Long Beach shows, I was set. I was ready to go.
Wow, I am so impressed. I don't know when you sleep.
I am caffeine fueled. I also have two young children. I have two young children.
Wow. Like at 12,
One with special needs, but that's not a gimmick.
like 12 cons, 2 kids, several side gigs. Yeah, color impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's fun. I like to keep busy. It's exciting. I feel, and I say this with no ego, I feel I have a good head for business. So I'm always doing like outreach for sponsorships, for talent. For me, the shows that I do are very categorized. So, again, we do ToonCon. So it's all about cartoons and animation. It doesn't overlap into like general pop culture or general comic convention stuff. I'm building these great relationships with comic and animation talent, both on the art and writing and voice acting side. I love it. It's just a lot of fun, and seeing people come and have a really good time, and as schmaltzy as it sounds, it's fantastic. All you do is want to throw a nice party for people, and that's where the core of the intention is for me and my group. No way.
Lauren, I have a question for you.
Yes,
For
ma'am.
the ToonCon, how did you focus on which guests and cartoons to invite? Because that's just so large. Western animation, there's tons of choices.
Yes. It was a combination between the people we immediately thought of and then the people who responded to us. So what does that mean? So when my business partner and I were like, okay, ToonCon, we have our date. We're ready to go. Like, we're going to have 2 panel rooms. Let's get started. And we started doing our guest outreach. We had a good amount of people that accepted and were excited. And then you have people that don't respond. But then you have people who kind of pop up out of nowhere and they were like, oh my God, there's a new show called ToonCon. Well, I'm a writer for these shows and I can hook you guys up with writers and artists from these shows. And so it's a combination of people responding to your requests and then you as the promoter just listening and letting people come in and hoping that by letting people through the door that it doesn't blow up in your face. And luckily it did not. ToonCon went off really, really nicely. We had a whole bunch of people who worked for various Hasbro properties come out of nowhere and support us, and they did panels for us, all led by this amazing guy named Doc Wyatt, who's a writer on a bunch of cartoons, and he just really wrangled the troops, and we had some really amazing programming because of those introductions. So I was grateful for that. But yeah, you have people who come in and then you have people that you reach out to, and it balances in the middle. So there's some surprises. There's surprises because, you can have your dream list of people that you would love to come to ToonCon, but then you find it's a combination of, oh, they won't respond to my email or phone call, or oh, wow, I cannot afford that guarantee.
Right?
You just have to keep on switching to the next plan. But it all works out because people are happy.
Well, hopefully I'll be able to make it to that one of these years.
I hope so. Last November was our first show, and we just set our date for this year's show, which we're going to announce on social media this upcoming week. So super excited for that. So we're going to start building ToonCon 2020 very shortly.
Okay, so this is my favorite one, especially for you, Casey, because you have your no bullshit attitude MO. So
Okay.
what are your starting steps for starting a con, and what shouldn't you not do as a stupid human being, I guess?
Oh, okay. You have to know your market. Should you even start a con in that genre, I guess I'll call it, in that location? Do you have competition? Was there one that already failed, and are you gonna have the same failures? And then, well, here in California, there's you just no, you know what? I'm gonna step back and say everywhere, wherever you're gonna be located, you need to know the business rules. What are the rules to do business in that state? Are you doing the paperwork properly just right out of the gate? Do you need to incorporate? Do you what are the labor laws? And is it beneficial for you to be a nonprofit? Or is it you need to know all that right off the bat? That's my perspective. Otherwise you incur a lot of risk running an event without knowing the boring business side and taxes and the paperwork that maybe needs to be done. You don't want those surprises later on down the line. It helps if you already know the property well, so who are the popular characters to bring in, say, voice actors, or do you know some of the content creators, so you can bring in YouTubers or things like that. So knowing it well and being a fan yourself is gonna help. So, you have to start off. Those are my 2 things.
More of a basebone question. What are your steps to starting a con? Booking the venue, booking the talent, all that stuff.
Oh, that comes way after the steps that I gave. You want to book your venue once you have all of your ducks in a row from the business side and make sure you're not going to violate any laws or put anyone at undue risk of filing for bankruptcy. You don't want that. So you want to make sure everyone's protected and that you're following all the proper rules, and then you can go out and get a venue. And then you want to know what dates and stuff, of course.
Oh, see, that's funny that you say that. I completely work inside out. That's For me and my group, first we kind of figure out where we want to house the show. And then after that, we make sure that there is a venue in that town that can kind of do what we need it to do. We'll book we'll settle on the date. Hopefully the venue has our date. And then from there, we see how many, like, what can that venue do for us? So is there space for programming? Is there space for extracurricular activities such as, panels or games or contests? How many vendors can we comfortably put in here without, crushing everyone? You have to have a certain amount of space for the aisles. So can this venue do what we need it to do? Yes, great. Build your inventory. And then from there, I go, okay, I have this much space for guests. So 6 guest tables, 10 guest tables, 20 guest tables, depending on the show. And then I start my guest outreach. Meanwhile, vendors, I do my solicitation for vendors. They know me. They know my partner. They know the work that we do. So they have the opportunity to buy booth space from us, and everything just kind of falls inward from there.
This is with an existing business in place.
Not necessarily. Like I said, the Simi Valley show is, it was new. So we launch new shows all the time. But some of them are repeats, correct? And people know what to expect.
So is each one its own, entity? Like its own business entity? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, they're under an umbrella. They're under an umbrella.
Okay.
Yeah, they're under an umbrella.
Okay, this is more, I guess, technical, but I guess entertain me. So if you're at the point where you've done all that stuff, because it just seems like something I'm noticing in general is people don't know how to book talent. So how would you book talent specifically for a convention? Is it the same agent as their, if it's a voice actor, is their same agent as their general voice actor? I know the pony VAs in general have specific agents for their convention bookings. Can you guys break down how that works?
Well, with the My Little Pony folks, just from knowing people in the con scene, I knew some of the agents. And so, I had their contact information. And also, people who want to work, make it easy to find them. I find a lot of actors, artists, they have a website with a contact me page. And sometimes it's, their reps information. Sometimes it's their email address for business inquiries. So for a lot of people, they want to be found because they want to be booked. They want to work. So start there with the easy ones first, I would say.
Now that Scott's back, Scott or Lauren, anything to add to that? Or maybe reaching out to...
I can add.
Go ahead.
I can add to that. Yeah, it's Casey's correct. There's a combination, or you were correct rather, in the sentiment of, with some agencies, it's the booking agent will be the same for conventions as it is for booking them work through a studio. But oftentimes there's specific convention agents that will book on behalf of the talent. And it's a combination of building a good relationship with those agencies. There's a lot of them out there. My favorite one to work with is Celebworks. I adore them. And then it's a combination of building a good relationship with the convention booking agents or finding the talent themselves. Oftentimes they'll represent themselves, and if you take good care of them at this show, they know they want to come back for your other shows. My business partner and I make sure that we take efforts. We buy gifts or gift baskets. We always buy lunch. We always do parking reimbursement, because for us it's the right thing to do to accommodate our talent, in that they at least are happy and know the show is going to be nice. And ideally, they'll always make a good amount of money from attendees, but at least we've given this really nice cushioned baseline that'll make them feel welcome.
Scott, is he still here? Sorry, I'm on mobile. Okay, anything to add to that?
Just talking about
booking
agents,
conventions.
Booking guests.
booking for conventions. Okay, yeah. I think you guys nailed it right on the head. I mean, it's the relationship. There are so many people out there that will not talk to you unless they are referred, or you're referred to them, or they know you, or they've seen your work, or have seen the shows that you've put on, or have at least a good reference of what you are about. just so they trust you. I deal with a number of agents in getting all sorts of talent for the conventions. Um, and that's one of the biggest things is establishing a good rapport with the agent, with the talent. Then they will be more apt to do certain things that you're asking them to do, which they wouldn't normally be doing at a convention, like special appearances or, doing a little extra on the side for free or um, coming to your con even when they might have other plans and that might take precedence if they weren't so good with your event. Um, and then the trust relationship, being able to pay your bills on time, making sure you're not shorting your guests, making sure you're giving good communication so that they know what they need to do, when they need to show up, where they need to be. Um, Agents all respect that, and they love it when that happens because they've probably been burned quite a few times by bad conventions or bad guest interactions, where they send their talent to a show and the show is like this black hole, and the talent comes back to them and they report back to their agents like, I never want to be invited to this show. Don't send anybody else to this show. It's horrible. They did all these things wrong. So if you have a good rapport with the agents, good rapport with the talent, it goes a long way.
Yes.
And communication, I mean, if you don't know them and you're trying to reach out to somebody new, starting on the right foot with that relationship, making sure your communication is proper, that you're directing it in a formal way, but not too formal, not over the top formal. This is a business relationship. You have to remember. It's not something where you're reaching out to a friend or buddy. It's like, hey, you want to come to my con? It's like, hello, sir, madam, or agent person. Here's your name. Put it in. Spell it right. That's a big ding. If you're not spelling people's names right, they're going to have a bad impression right off the bat. If your email or your voicemail or your phone call is full of mistakes, typos, incorrect information, like you're contacting the wrong agent for the wrong talent, those kind of things always just put you off on the wrong foot, and it's very hard to recover from that. If you have done this a few times, you kind of get to know the agent or the talent, so you can come to expect certain things back and forth after a while, but don't start with that impression, or don't think that just because you know one agent or one group of talent that automatically falls over to another group or another agent, because it doesn't. Oh, I'm kind of rambling here, but go ahead. Yeah,
I was just going to say, and for the
relationship.
for the baseline, I'm just starting a new con. I don't know how to book talent. Where are some resources that you guys go to, or what would some websites you would be recommending just to kind of get general basics?
Sometimes that is just a mystery to solve, and there are many different ways to try to solve it. Twitter is a great resource. Usually, if you're looking for somebody, they'll have a Twitter account.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
They'll have it listed right in their bio.
Like if you have somebody in mind, Google them. Google the guest if you really want to start there. But if you're talking about like animators or writers and sometimes even actors, you can ask their union who their rep is. Sometimes the unions will have that information available. So, Google their union and make a phone call.
I've literally gone to Twitter, found the person I was looking for, and said, "Hey, how can I or who should I contact to book your talent, or who is your agent? Who should I contact in regards to booking talent?" Usually, the guests, if they're a proper agent representation, you won't book it directly with the talent. You'll have to go through an agency of some sort, and a lot of times agencies don't necessarily own specific talent, but they group a bunch of them together. So the agencies you find online through a Google search might not be the actual agent to go to for your certain.
Oh yeah, beware those. Beware those like booktalent.coms. They're usually not the actual reps. If you're talking somebody starting from scratch, you might not know that.
And they're going to charge a nice commission on top to be the go-between. So yeah, just reach out, ask the talent if it all fails. Usually they'll have a Twitter account. Just ask them straight up if you need to.
Yeah, I would just jump in and say like IMDb Pro usually has a lot of their general talent information, be a voice actor, or just like, for other publicists and stuff like that.
I've even found IMDb to be unreliable in a lot of cases. It's either old information, not updated information, or just plain wrong.
I was gonna say one from my experience, once you start planning and promoting your event, you start getting floods of emails from agencies, legitimate ones, who want you to book their talent. So oftentimes they come to you once your event is like in the ether and under their radar. Agents will come to you.
Okay. I like the thoroughness of that. Okay, so I'm gonna mix around the order a little bit. So I know we kind of started on general like how to run, but do you guys have any helpful hints that you want to talk about as far as just the new con runner, like things you wish you knew when you first started, like any general advice?
I read a lovely 3-step process to running a new convention. The first step is don't. The second step is find some friends. And the third step is find some money. Because without those 3 things, minus the first one, of course, but find some friends, find some money, because you're not going to be running anything without that. It's very hard to run an event by yourself. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. And if you're trying to do this on the side, it's nearly impossible to get that going by yourself. Find some money. People don't realize these things actually cost money in some cases. A lot of money.
Can
I
you
would
give
say
a
5
ballpark
figures
as far?
for
Yeah, okay,
most
ballpark.
like hotel type cons. That's your starting range for a
5
small
figures.
convention.
Oh, it's not.
Like 10 to 20 grand, I would say, before you even think about trying to run your own con.
Well, not the deposit.
I would respectfully disagree with that. You definitely have to budget. I'm not trying to diminish what you said, but I don't know. I mean, some shows, sure. Every show is different. Power Morphicon costs a lot of money. The Long Beach shows are very large, but I think that people can throw really nice fan events. You just got to keep in mind, if you can keep your ticket prices down and you book a hotel that doesn't cost a lot, I think you can break even and maybe even take a little bit of money home in the $5,000 range.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is possible. I would say you need to have a very good handle on your attendance, just your raw numbers of what you expect to have people in attendance for a certain kind of event. If you're expecting 100 people to attend, 500 people to attend, 1,000 people to attend, you're talking about a very different scenario in each one of those cases. And there's kind of budget numbers where that would make sense and where it just wouldn't make sense. Just talking from the pony fandom experience, a very small convention, 200 to 500 type attendance, you're going to be about what you're saying, $5,000 minimum, and that's to have very cheap or free talent appearances at a fairly cheap off-season type hotel. If you're talking about high season with 500 people in attendance, that's going to need some decent space at a hotel type ballroom area. It's probably going to have 2 or so like VIP guests or invited special guests. You're probably looking more to $10,000 to $15,000 just to have something sustainable, effective, that you don't have to worry about, charging everybody $200 a ticket to attend.
We're just talking venue costs. It really varies. It varies so much on what the venue wants. I mean, EQLA had 4 different venues, and every single time they wanted different things. Sometimes if we paid more for food and beverage, they gave us a screaming deal on the ballrooms. So like it really just depends. We didn't have the best luck
It does come
at
down to negotiation.
the Anaheim Convention Center. Had some weird rules, so we found that our event was way better in hotels. So it really depends. Depends so much.
I say you can save yourself a lot of money by negotiating your contracts and not just taking the general offer that they're giving everybody on the street. Take into account how many people might be staying at the hotel, the room bookings, discounts, rates for that kind of thing. They can cut
Yeah,
into your
I'm
costs.
generally.
All sorts of things all over.
I was just gonna add, I'm generally surprised with the discourse. I'm glad this is a lot better. Putting some people in a room that probably haven't talked to each other in a while, or if at all, between Lauren and everyone else. Okay, moving on.
I
Casey,
do have to say I have to jump off the call like very soon.
Okay, sure. I'll try to keep it one to two, and then we'll just kind of filter out depending on who wants to stay here. But okay. Um, so programming is generally important for a con. What kind of panels do you guys like to plan, programming wise, both for your guests of honor, or what kind of panels are you looking for? From the general public as far as engagement and just general things to consider, I guess.
I mean, I can go on that. I like to keep my largest panel room to all the big VIP names. I'll get at least one panel in there and kind of work backwards from there if there's any other time for maybe larger YouTubers, say, or the charity auction, things like that. And then if I had smaller panel rooms, I would keep that for some of the fan panels where they run themselves. Like they want to talk about fan fiction or other YouTube things or cosplay panels, things like that. But you also that's where you have to know your fandom. You have to know what is gonna fill the room. Which subjects are going to need the 8,000 person ballroom and which are perfectly fine with a 50 person small panel room. And I always focus on children's programming as well because it was My Little Pony, and I wanted to make sure that the children and families felt as welcome as the adult fans. So make sure that everyone in your fandom feels welcome and there's something for everyone, I guess, is a takeaway for a general purpose kind of thing.
Yeah, panels in general. I like to make sure that my panels are varied, so we're not doing the same thing every time. It's kind of hard to have your VIP panels just be Q&A every single time you have a VIP panel. So I like to try to mix them up, but have at least one panel through my event that is open to things for Q&A because people do still like it. But then maybe the second time that person might be up on stage, do something else with them. Have a game, an interactive thing where they can play with the audience or have a special type of event or performance even, just so we have varying content. And then, like Casey was saying, keep it so that there's something for everyone. Make sure you vary your content. Kind of think through the different fans, attendees you might have, and make sure that if I was this kind of a person, what would I be interested in doing, and does my panel layout throughout the week and my event schedule look like something that I could accomplish? Are all the cosplay panels happening at the same time on the same day in different rooms? That's not going to be a good thing, because if I was a cosplay fan, I'd only have one event to go to at one point during the entire event weekend. So just make sure you have things spread out, make sure you have some variety, make sure there's something for everybody, and that keeps people happy and engaged.
Yeah, I mean, I feel very similarly. I feel like there's panels that will always be evergreen, and that is having a voice acting panel, um, of some flavor. But I agree that I don't like Q&A panels. They have to be a very, very, for me, high hitting guest for me to consider a Q&A panel. Otherwise, I still want there to be entertainment. I want there to be, like, there's some great groups out there that'll do pop culture debate panels, or like cosplay comedy, or like comedy in general, or panels about toy collecting where they bring in things for you to actually look at and they talk about the history of this specific toy fandom, and the merchandise that's been involved. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is yes to everything you guys said, and just making a conscientious effort to make sure that your panels are really engaging and really exciting, because I've just been to so many boring panels, and seeing things that you feel are done incorrectly helps you as a showrunner or somebody helping to plan programming. That sort of makes you know what not to do.
At the
Yeah,
end of every
that's
Everfree event, we
fair.
also
I
have
think
a
experience
like a
definitely
Q&A
helps.
session.
I will say, I know you guys want to wrap up, so I will kind of leave it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, at the end of every Everfree, we have a Q&A session where we listen to feedback from the attendees. And from that information we gather back from them, the questions they ask us, the feedback they give us, we try to incorporate that in the next year. So if there was something they liked about the panels or the events, we try to bring those kind of things back or expand upon them. If there's something they didn't like, we try to correct that problem, or we just remove it from the scheduling if it's something that just people didn't enjoy or it wasn't well attended.
Mm-hmm.
So year over year, you learn a little bit more about what your fans are interested in and how things go with certain events, certain types of panels and whatnot.
I guess the general consensus is like if you're the general public organizing or wanting to organize a panel for a convention, just make sure it's something compelling and something that is well researched as far as what specifically your topic is. I think it's fair to say around the board. Okay, so we'll end at this. I think we're just going off too long anyway. So why are fan conventions in general important to the general public? Via someone from your guys' experience or your guys' experience as running them, from people you're interacting with, like, what are people personally gaining from these, and just general, why should they exist?
It's a place where you can find your people.
That's a good way to put it.
Fandom means a lot to a lot of people. I mean, it's a very important aspect of a brand in general, or a commodity of sorts. Hasbro in the My Little Pony fandom kind of struck gold when they just allowed the fan cons to happen without much interference or, cease and desist orders, or you can't use our brand to promote this kind of thing. They just kind of let it happen. They kept an eye on it, just from a very high level view to make sure it wasn't, trashing that brand.
Mm-hmm.
But allowing it to happen actually was the biggest advertisement for their products they could have ever hoped for. To allow all the fans of their IP to come together to celebrate that IP, to engage with one another, to share stories, to share content, to share creations, and just, in general, enjoy what was created and want more of it to come and consume that as it came. It was better than any toy commercial they could have ever produced.
Lauren, do
It's
you
also better than their own fan conventions that they ran.
Yeah, that is
industry
true.
conventions.
I don't know if anyone's ever heard of HashCon or what is it, HasCon or something?
HasCon.
But that was
HasCon, they
bad.
Well, it wasn't really meant for the fans. It was meant for like industry insiders more than anything, to showcase their products. It was like, hey, look at us. Look at all the stuff we can make and you can sell and we can all profit from. It wasn't really a celebration of the work itself.
Well, they tried.
From what I could
Honestly,
see.
they tried. It was Hasbro trying to put on a D23, and it was a little misguided, and they didn't give themselves enough time to really plan it. But that's a talk for another day.
Fair enough. Lauren, do you want to add any insight as far as why you do it or why conventions are important?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, I guess we can end on this note. So thank you guys so much for spending an hour with me, even though my internet is a piece of garbage. So I'm hoping this helps people who maybe have no idea what a convention is, or like maybe aren't biting off more than they can chew essentially, because it just seems like that's just a continual thing that keeps on happening, and conventions in general are such a big investment that people have to be careful. So, any last words? Do you guys want to plug anything?
Come to Everfree. Enjoy your fans.
Lauren, it was very nice to meet you.
You too. Thank you so
Likewise.
much.
And
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
hey, Scott, good luck with your cons.
Yep, we're gearing up for one of our biggest years ever. If the projections are right, we're about 3 times ahead of where we normally are at this point, this far out. Our hotel is completely booked. Our overflow hotel is practically completely booked. We're gonna have a lot of people.
A lot of sweaty
Might have to
people.
try to find some more space for them.
Lauren, do you want to plug more stuff, or are you good?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to just run down the list. I always feel like the mother of dragons when I run down the names of all the shows and everything that I do. But if you go to troublemakerservices.com, everything is listed there that my group and I work on, and we hope you guys come check out some of our shows. You can see my toy journalism, my group's toy journalism at toy-wizards.com. And that's kind of where I am.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Animation Communication. I'm KP with these lovely con chairs, signing off. Okay, I think that's it. You guys can stop recording and then just shoot me your audio.
Thank you so much for listening to Animation Communication on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider. We are really hoping this show makes a difference in how people view animation and media, as well as giving and providing advice for people all over the world who like or want to join the animation or media industry. If you liked what you heard, please remember to subscribe and rate those 5 stars, as well as tell your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our main YouTube channel, I Love Kim Possible a Lot, and turn those notifications on. My name is Scribbler, and you have been listening to Animation Communication.